invited these four individuals because we wanted to do a panel about the diversity of careers tonight. So the idea is really the four of you to have a conversation with each other about career challenges, career successes, and that's really the kind of the first part of the session. The second part of the session would be maybe about STP resources. Maybe you found a golden nugget. Maybe you found something really helpful, a committee, an ebook, maybe something that you'd like to see in the future. You've got the president-elect on your panel. If you could have a free-flowing conversation of the four of you, that would be ideal.
You've just heard Psychsessions host Eric Landrum at STP's annual conference on teaching in Portland, Oregon in the fall of 2024. Eric and I had the opportunity to host a panel discussion featuring Loretta McGregor, Skylar Mendes, Janet Peters, and Jordan Wagge in front of a live studio audience for this 190th episode of Psychsessions, Conversations About Teaching and Stuff. Psychsessions is proud to partner with Macmillan Learning. At Macmillan Learning Psychology, content matters, and these days, digital content matters more than ever. Macmillan Learning's Achieve elevates interactive teaching and learning with an extraordinary range of online course content in a powerful yet easy-to-use platform. Interactive ebooks, innovative assessments, engaging videos and activities, helpful instructor resources. Achieve brings it all together and makes it easy for you to find what you need and what you want. See for yourself. Go to macmillanlearning.com/Psychsessions for an introductory tour today. Macmillan's Achieve for Psychology, engaging every student, supporting every instructor, setting the new standard for teaching and learning.
The Psychsessions podcast is sponsored by STP, that is the Society for the Teaching of Psychology. That's APA Division 2. You can find them at teachpsych.org. The views or product endorsements expressed do not represent the views, support, or endorsements of STP. Psychsessions is so grateful to have STP as a long-term supporter.
Colleagues, do you want to learn more about how you can easily integrate learning strategies into your Intro Psych course? Then sign up for a demo of the Intro Psych book, Psychology in Your Life, and W.W. Norton will give you a $25 gift card for your time. Here's why you should consider it. You've probably noticed that after 2 years of remote learning, your students need some extra support in learning how to study, especially in Intro Psych. So what if you could incorporate study skills directly into the content you're already covering in your course? Sarah Grisson, author of Psychology in Your Life, has offered us this integration. Here's what she did. First, she analyzed the learning science research to find 6 learning impact strategies that would be most helpful to college students, and then she synthesized them into the IMPACT model. IMPACT stands for improving, monitoring, practicing, attending, connecting, and thinking deeply. There are impact learning pauses throughout the book that offer study tips and just-in-time learning hacks. And Inquisitive, Norton's award-winning adaptive assessment, also includes questions on the impact strategies and incorporates these learning tips into Inquisitive's answer-specific question feedback. You're going to want to try this demo out, and they're going to give you a $25 gift card. So sign up for the demo of Psychology in Your Life by going to siegel.wwnorton.com/Psychsessions. That's Siegel, like the bird, SEAGULL.wwnorton.com/Psychsessions.
Well, hey everybody, welcome and thank you so much for coming to this Psychsessions live recording. Our fearless leader, I just want to acknowledge Lindsay Maslin in the back. Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Lindsay really goes to bat for these things for us, and we appreciate it. So thank you so much for making this possible.
Thank you to STP.
Thank you to STP as well. Yeah, STP is a sponsor of the Psychsessions podcast, and it makes it a lot easier to do what we do with some support and to get these resources and programming out to teachers for free.
All right, so we invited these four individuals because we wanted to do a panel about the diversity of careers tonight. And so we invited people from early in their career, EC peers. We'll let them self-identify early in the career, mid-career, later in career. And so we want to ask them to talk about, and we gave them questions in advance that we're now going to throw out. So the idea is really the four of you, when Garth gets out of your way, to have a conversation with each other about career challenges, career successes. There's a lot of people leaving higher ed. Have you thought about that? Whatever you're comfortable sharing. And that's really the kind of the first part of the session. The second part of the session would be maybe about STP resources. Maybe you found a golden nugget. Maybe you found something really helpful, a committee, an ebook, maybe something that you'd like to see in the future. You've got the president-elect on your panel. And so maybe there's something in task force. Yeah, look around, lady. And so that's really the idea. And Garth and I have wireless mics for a reason, because we're going to ask you all to participate in this, whether you want to ask a question, contribute one of your struggles, one of your successes. By the way, we are recording all of this, and we have editorial control. So if something is said, like a couple of things I've just said, they can be edited out. So please don't worry about being perfect. Please don't worry about being perfect. We can edit anything that you would like us to. So I'm going to shut up because you didn't come here to see me. And so we're going to let each of you introduce yourself. Janet, maybe if you'd start us off, we'll go down the row. And after that, I don't want you to be mechanical. If you could have a free-flowing conversation of the four of you without an audience, that would be ideal. So Janet, if you'll start us.
Okay. Hi. I'm Janet Peters. I am an associate professor of teaching at Washington State University. And my position there is I'm also the director of our Teaching and Learning Center, which we call Instructional Excellence and Innovation.
I'm Jordan Wagge. I am a professor and now chair for the past 6 weeks of the psychology department at Avila University in Kansas City, Missouri. It's important.
Were you waiting for pause?
No.
She was waiting for Taylor to show up.
Never. There are two Kansas Cities. I don't know.
But
Yeah.
she was waiting for Taylor Swift to show up.
No.
So. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Let me put on my professional voice before I start. Good evening. Now, I am Loretta McGregor. I am a professor of psychology at Arkansas State University in Jonesboro, Arkansas. That's on the other side of the state from that other Arkansas University one. And I am indeed president-elect of STP.
Hello, everyone. I'm Skylar Mendes. I am a PhD student in psychology at Arizona State University in Tempe.
Could you each briefly talk about where you are in your careers, and just whatever you would self-identify, early career, mid-career, just however you would describe yourself?
Tail end of the career.
No, seriously, Jordan,
you never know
is that
when
what
the
you would
end is.
describe?
Yeah, no. I guess I'm probably mid-career. Am I okay? All right. I'm gonna eat it. I think I'm mid-career. I've been at my institution for 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
Janet?
So I am still, by STP's definition, I am an early career psychologist, but if we got to self-identify, I would say I'm moving into mid-career. I feel like I've gotten to the place where I've done things that I feel like I don't have quite that brand new feeling anymore, but I'm also not quite what's the next thing on the horizon yet? And so I have that. I'm real mid-career vibes over here.
Well, I am an OG. I'm a real OG. And this is my 33rd year in the profession. And it is my 18th year at my current institution. So
early career.
Yeah, that's what I said, OG.
All right, gosh, I guess if we're going by the STP standards, I'm a pre-career then, since I am still a graduate student, but worked before that between doing a master's and then was working in higher ed professionally in a staff role. So
I'm going to just work with you all talking to each other so that we can keep Eric and I off the mic as much as possible. But let me just ask, Janet, when you hear somebody pre-career, at ACT, starting to get into STP. What do you think about? How does that? Yeah, I don't know. Not even advice, but just like, I know it warms your heart because you're just that kind of a person. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels like opportunity. I remember my very first ACT, and having the opportunity to meet people has put me on this panel today. And so that's one of the things I think about that like for any early pre-career, baby career folks, that getting involved in SCP is just such a wonderful opportunity to connect with people that can elevate and amplify your voice and your passion for teaching. And so when I hear that, I think like, welcome to the group, because I think there's lots of open arms for you.
Well, I think for me, and I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway, it makes me excited to be sitting next to I'm going to call you a pre-ECP, because I think that's what you are. And it warms the cockles of my heart to know that there is a new generation of educators who are coming along. My presidential initiative, which I'll talk a little bit about later on, is really focused on cultivating the next generation of psychology educators, because I think that's very important. And I think that you sit here epitomizing what I would really like to stress and to hopefully be a part of encouraging more people to come into the teaching of psychology at whatever level you're interested in coming into the profession as. But I also think that those of us who are in the profession, especially those of us who are at the university level and professors, I think we need to step up to the plate and do a better job of encouraging people to come in to the teaching of psychology. They look at us sometimes like we are these anomalies, like we just came straight out of the womb and we were professors. And we weren't. Most of us had very interesting and circuitous journeys trying to get into the place where we are now. And I think we need to share our stories a little bit more with our students and allow it to serve as a sense of encouragement. So I'm pleased to be sitting next to you as a pre-ECP.
Well, thank you so much. I think in psychology and at ACT in particular, that is a lot of what I have felt, which has been something really important to me, about STP as a graduate student, and especially when you're in a doctoral program that is, very research focused. There's not necessarily as much warm mentoring around teaching a lot of the time. So having this kind of space where people really do care that much about it and to, fill a little bit of that void is really special. I think, from the first ACT I went to all of last year, the feeling is just there that everyone wants to help. And I think that that's true of the psychology teaching community more broadly. So what a nice place for us to start.
It definitely warms my heart too. And I think I was having this conversation with one of my colleagues earlier today about, it's my instinct. I don't have any numbers to support this, but it's my instinct that teaching schools are going to have a difficult time in a few years, and we're having a hard time already. I know the colleagues I have who are at research institutions are taking fewer doctoral students, and the doctoral students that seem to be in that program aren't getting a lot of strong mentoring in going to teaching programs, so it's competitive on top of, people won't take students in sometimes if they say that they eventually want to be at a teaching school. And that really makes me worry a lot for the future of the profession. And I think that advocacy of getting out there and explaining, and really showing people why you do need to have good training in teaching. It needs to be a central part of what you do, no matter what kind of institution you're at, is going to be really important. Yeah.
Okay, so as the unofficial OG of the group, and since this is being recorded, I am going to put into practice something that I learned earlier today, because this is a audio recording and our audience cannot see us. Before we talk, if we could just say our name like this is, to give them a little more context of who's actually speaking, I think that would help our listeners a lot. So if we could do that, you guys agree with that?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Jordan, and I agree with that.
Okay, thank you. This is Loretta. Thank you.
This is Jordan. You're welcome.
Welcome to NPR.
That's funny because I was just saying that Garth. You've heard me say that Garth is this is Jordan. Garth is the Terry Gross of psychology.
This is Janet. Amen.
Oh, thank you.
And this is Loretta. Good times.
Good times. Oh, we know where this is going. We've been here before. SNL circa, I don't know when that was. So
Something
a lot
about
of
sweaty. This is Eric.
Sweaty.
a lot of what brings us together is our participation in STP, and not only ACT, but some of the things that we've been involved with in having the opportunity to serve other teachers of psychology. I would love to hear from you all. What have been the formative experiences with STP or in the teaching of psychology nationally that have really brought you here, that have been helpful to you in your career, or will be helpful to you in the next stage of your career? Go ahead.
I have a great story. This is Jordan. I love my STP story. It's my favorite. So I was like a second-year faculty member at my institution. I was 31. My department was sending me to the best practices conference, right? Because it used to be best practices because it was on teaching research methods and stats. That was the focus. And I was really excited because we were looking at overhauling our program, which we did. And I was like, I need to present something because if I don't present something, my school's not going to give me money. And I want money. So I'm like, well, what am I going to present? And I didn't really have any research that was going on. And so I'm like, well, I think I want to present about how to design research projects and research methods classes. And I don't know, like my poor impulse control just took over, but it was probably one of the best things that ever happened. I reached out on the listserv. So first I had to learn what a listserv was. Then I had to learn how to email it. And I got like emailed back twice, like, no, you need to fix this. You need to have a signature, blah, blah, blah. And I emailed him like, I'm interested in presenting. Like, would anybody like to co-present with me? And people like reached out, like people I'd never met. And we got a group of people to present. And one of them was my colleague, John Gray, who we ended up forming this really great relationship. And he kind of like brought me to where I am today as a mentor. And it just kind of all came from just like, I don't know. What's a listserv? I want to present something for money. And here I am. Success.
This is Janet. That's the same copy and paste as my story, but in a slightly different font. And it reminds me of this vocational theory called planned happenstance, where a lot of career is planned happenstance. And I feel like for me, that's my STP journey of getting to my first conference and then knowing exactly one person there. And like, you can't, at least I didn't want to like stick by that one person the whole time. Right. So I was like, well, I'll go to this, I'll sign up for that ECP dinner and hopefully there'll be other people and maybe I can make some friends and form some reasonable relationships and have people to talk to while I go. And for me, that was just the same thing where I met people that have become really important relationships and mentors. And that has only continued. And I just really loved this idea of planned happenstance where it's not just luck, right? I mean, there is happenstance to it. So that's a component, but it also takes the planning and the reaching out. And I just think STP is just this nice opportunity to capitalize on planned happenstance. And so for me, that's what it is.
This is Eric. It's not luck.
That's why I like it, because it's not. There's an element of it, but it also takes being willing to do the work and to do the things and be in a position that you can capitalize on an opportunity when it lands. And so that's why I like it. It's both reflects luck and circumstance and privilege, and also work and effort and putting yourself out there. And I like that it's both of them.
Sky, are you having these experiences yet where you see how your current interactions with people, relationships, happenstance is leading somewhere maybe fruitful for the future?
I absolutely do, especially even with landing here on the panel tonight. For me, engaging with STP Started with some of the more formal structures, so some things like joining GSTA, the Graduate Student Teaching Association, which quickly became being chair of the GSTA, which became reaching out to people, which became meeting people, which became, riding up in the elevator today with Lindsay and her saying, hey, I told them, maybe you should be the grad student guest for the podcast. So I think, just starting out with some of those more structured opportunities for me, because I wouldn't say that I'm like a crowd worker in a room. Don't get me wrong, my classes are a comedy stand-up hour, but in those contexts a little tougher. But meeting people through more structured means, meeting people through STP mentoring.
It sounds like all of you had a person. Janet, you had a person. Jordan, you had a person. Loretta, did you have a person who helped you out through this process?
This is Eric. Yes, she did.
In the last 33 years?
Was it Eric?
No, it wasn't me. There were two people. I'll let her tell her story.
Why? This is Loretta. Eric's going to tell my story.
It was Randy Smith and Steve Davis.
It actually, you know what? I'm so impressed that you remember that, Christoph. So...
It's Dr. Christoph.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So I call him Christoph because I told people that he's Santa Claus's son with the beard and everything, and I had to give him a name, so it's Christoph. But anyway, I digress. Yes, I did have people who really helped mentor me through the process, introduce me to STP, introduce me to just the professional side of the discipline, starting when I was an undergraduate student. I went to my very first, I think, professional conference, which was the Southwestern Psychological Association, as an undergraduate student, and was just blown away by the passion that people had for teaching. I remember thinking, as a student, when I was a student, thinking that these people really do care about us. And I had never felt that way before or thought about that before. And it really helped me look at my professors in a very different light because they really were concerned. They really were caring. And they were not trying to intentionally fail me in classes. I was doing that all by myself, but no. And so I went to this very first professional conference, and Randy Smith, who is a former STP president, he was the one who he took a group of students to this conference. I met Steve Davis there for the first time, who later became a mentor, and they're both still very good friends. But I also remember a seminal moment at the Southwestern Psychological Conference when I first met and when I first saw and was introduced to the regional president, who was Janet Matthews, which some of you may remember from Louisiana. And it was the first time that I had seen a female in the role of president. And she had all these people following her around. And I thought, that is so freaking cool. Like, oh my gosh, she's awesome. And now I'm president-elect, which I find hard to believe sometimes.
I believe it.
Well, and then I think just the friendships that I've developed over the years, you guys, I joke with you all the time, but I really do appreciate your friendship, and I really do love you guys because you've become my STP family, and then I've got my family sitting here in front of me. These are people now that we've watched each other's kids grow up, and we've been through ups and downs with each other. We probably know way too much about each other, but that's the close-knit kind of relationship that you can develop with people in STP. You really do feel like you become a family over the years. And when you meet each other at conference, you catch up on each other's lives. Like, oh, how's little such and such? I bet they're like 8 now. Well, yeah, they just turned 9. Oh my gosh. So the relationships are very important to me, and I really appreciate them all.
This is Sky. I'll say, too, that a lot of this makes me think about how important it is, not just the mentoring and things that are taking place, connecting people within STP, but also just getting people connected to STP to start. Because for me as a graduate student, I would never have been connected if it weren't for a member of the teaching faculty who I worked with as a teaching associate, who forwarded an email. It was when they were looking for GSTA members, and she said, I think this would be of interest to you. And, it's the small things like that. I'm sure only, one out of however many emails, hits, and, people are quite busy. But for the people for whom they're going to find their people in a community like this, it really makes a difference having that first outreach, that first time that someone says, hey, I think this is for you.
Why is it, Loretta, you said family, Sky, you said your people. What is it about this community? And maybe this is just like an in-group bias thing, but I've heard people talk about other communities, professional communities that they've been a part of that don't quite do what the teaching of psychology community does for them in a way of belonging. Do you all have any theories about that? Or do you agree? Maybe you disagree. Well, that would make for a better conversation even than all agreeing. But what do you think?
Well, this is Loretta, and I think for me, one of the things that really sort of solidified it and made me think these are my people is that I could tell a psychology-related joke and everyone would laugh and I didn't have to explain it to them. It's like, we all got it. It's like, oh, that's so cool. But, so we are all passionate, I think, about teaching, which is why we're here. And that passion somehow simply multiplies when you get with people who are also passionate about teaching. And it becomes almost, this infectious kind of thing. It sort of spills over to everyone who's present, I think. And I think that's why it sort of binds us together. But I don't know. It could be just it's late and I'm rambling. So there you are.
I think I've thought about this a lot. I think part of it is because I feel like a set of shared values with people. And I think that that's important. And I also you can kind of walk up to somebody and be like, well, how are things at your institution? They kind of roll their eyes and they're like, how are things at your institution? And you're like, I kind of roll my eyes. And it's like, yeah, we all have common obstacles, but I've noticed the same thing I think I've noticed with the open science community, which is people aren't there. I don't think people are here for themselves. I don't think people are here to advance their careers. I think that'll happen when you're part of it, but I think we're here because of the teaching. And that's what brings us to the table. People in the open science community, with some exceptions, right, tend to be there for advancing the science and that kind of shared value, that like lack of ego. I think it breaks down the elitism a little bit. It makes it easier to take, to connect with people because you have a common goal. Your goal isn't to advance your own, agenda or career.
Yeah, this is Jana. I'd build on that too, saying, many of us spend a lot of time in our fields getting our higher education degree. So clearly that passion binds whatever area specialist you are, right? So I think even in other fields that I'm part of, there's that shared passion. So I don't think we're unique in that aspect. And so I think the thing that for me levels it up to the sense of community and belonging is, for whatever reason, I think the people that are drawn into this specific focus are really people who are givers and who put in the work. The committees that I've been on in here, it feels way more shared work than in other committees I've been part of. People are willing to take it on. People are willing to show initiative. People are willing, they really give it their all in ways that I just don't see in other communities. And I think, I think there's I think about all the resources STP offers and the emphasis on making it cost accessible to people. And I think about those things where we put people and providing support first and some of those other things second. And I think the people that draws in and attracts to this organization, it's this wonderful positive gain spiral. And so I think that's one thing I feel that differentiates us in my experience.
So this is Loretta, and I want to build on that sort of giving back, because I really do think that people who are in this organization really do want to give back. One of the themes I think that you've heard so far is those of us who are on this panel sort of recognizing that if it had not been for other people, we probably would not be here. And we don't take that lightly. And so we really do want to give back and bring others forward and into the fold with us, because it is a way for us to sort of bring it full circle.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, yeah, this is Sky. Glad I'm going last so I could think a little bit more about what the secret sauce is here. And I think really a part of it too is everything that everyone said, but also that we're at this nexus of psychology and education where, it's colliding two areas where people who care about other people are drawn. Not to say that that's not true in other fields by any means, but people who care about education really deeply care about people, and people who are drawn to the field of psychology frequently are drawn in because they care about people. When you think about students who are self-selecting into taking, 101 or into the major, things like that, whether they have clinical aspirations or not, it's because there's something interesting about people. So I think we do a good job getting to know each other and having that shared passion at the collision of psychology and education.
This is Eric interrupting again. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
We're almost out of time. I'd like to be able to say a couple of things. No, we're not almost out of time. So I actually want to give the audience a chance to get involved. So does someone want to either ask a question to the panel or add your own story to what you've heard? We paid a lot of money for the wireless mics. It'd be nice to actually get a little bit of use out of them. Yes, Amy Feinberg from Sarasota Springs. Yes, you're on the air.
Sarasota Springs. Hi, this is Amy. My question is really for all of you. Sitting here, being able to see you, I am making the assumption that all of you identify as women. Do you have any insights into any particular challenges or advantages to being a woman in our field?
This is Loretta. Thank you so much for that question, Amy, but we're out of time. No.
This is Eric. Thank you, Loretta.
So I guess I will start, since I already started by saying this is Loretta. But for me, there are challenges because of intersectionality. I identify as a Black woman, but not only am I a Black woman, I am also a Black woman from the South who grew up. I grew up in an impoverished environment. And so I never saw anyone who looked like me in a position like I am in now. I mean, I never saw anyone as a child. I never saw anyone as a teenager. And even when I went to college, there was no one who looked like me who was my professor. Even after being in the discipline for 33 years, it is still a challenge to get people who look like me involved. And it's not because there are not people who are qualified. So I definitely want to dispel that myth. There are lots of different reasons. Sometimes the spaces that I am in, like this space, people who look like me don't always feel welcomed. And I think that's a really big challenge for not just people who look like me, but also for the organization and for the discipline. A lot is lost with a lack of diversity. And I have personally felt that challenge, and that sometimes it's really lonely being the only person who looks like me in the entire room. You know, I don't know. I know that the audience who's listening, they can't see, but I look around this room, and if I want to see someone who looks like me, I'm going to have to look into a mirror. So, I think that one of the biggest challenges for me is, even though I have great friends and great support systems, is that burden of being the only one sometimes. It wears you out. And I would love to see more people of color. I would love to see more women of color. I would love to just see people who have lots of different intersectionalities involved in STP and involved in the discipline.
I'll offer the microphone to other people. This is Voldemort speaking. Anybody? These were really expensive. Really? One? Yeah, I'll make it back there.
Hello, Katie Ann. I want to follow up on your comment, and thank you very much for sharing that. As a cis white gender person, what can I do to best be your ally to support you? I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but I don't know what I'm doing. So is there something that the rest of us can do? Because, like you said, looking in the mirror, I don't want to be, that kind of breaks my heart, and I would like to be able to support you as best I can. So
this is Loretta, and I'm assuming the question was directed to me. But thank you very much. I appreciate, I just appreciate you stating that and just identifying with wanting to be someone who is an ally. But what I found is that people who are concerned about being allies are already allies, and they're already doing all the things and going above and beyond. And so I guess the best thing you could do to support people who look like me is probably not to second guess yourself about whether you're doing enough and whether you're being an ally. Because again, if you're thinking about it, you're already doing more than most people. So thank you.
Anybody else? You won't get this reference, but I'm playing Phil Donahue.
Jackie, which no, whatever. Okay, that's not even my name. I don't know why I said that. Just kidding. It is
Jackie from somewhere.
Jackie from Corvallis, Oregon. So Oregon State, go Beavs. Pack 2. Yeah. All right.
This is Jana as a WSU faculty. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're holding it down over here.
So she goes from Jackie, I don't care, to life story, but
yeah. So sorry, you give me a microphone, and I'm like, oh, the power is insane. So this might be more relevant for those of you who are like mid-career or later. Being teaching psych and doing research on learning isn't usually, especially at R1s or larger institutions, isn't sexy. It isn't really encouraged. So can you all talk about if you've had to kind of combat that, or how you've really made space for yourself to focus on that, or if you've had any challenges in that in your kind of experience?
This is Jordan. I don't know that research that is known as sexy has really turned out that well. So I just try to focus on that, and just try to focus on, the things that have eminence aren't always the things that pan out. And also no one pays attention to anything I do. So
Not true.
they're not. Somebody's going to listen to this and they're going to be like, oh,
I'll do it for you.
thank you. I love a good gasp.
Said Loretta.
This is Janet. I mean, I certainly have less scholarship requirements, so this is adapt as you see fit. But I'll tell you, one of the things that I feel like I was able to do, and it's something that I want to do for my career, so it fits, but is to take that scholarship and also make it very marketable from the university standpoint, and tying it to university initiatives was really helpful to me, both in getting funding for things, getting recognition for things, to be honest. That has been a strategic choice. And I have, like I said, I'm very blessed because I have great mentors that have helped me do that. And ultimately, that's also what helped me become the director of teaching and learning on our campus, was being able to make evidence-based decisions and know how to go about that process, and helping and facilitating other faculty to do the same. So I turned it into a side hustle. It's not really a side hustle; it's just my job now. But I think one thing that sometimes where we have is we can do great things and communicating that we're sometimes not good at. We do amazing work, but being able to convince, depending on your structure, your vice chancellors or whatever, your chancellors, your president, whatever that might be, I think that is almost its own marketing skill. And I think that's something that I have had to develop over time, because I want to do the things that I like doing. And so I have to figure out a way to make that appealing to other people so I can get promoted and paid and still really love my job. So that's what I've been strategic about, thinking about how to do that.
This is with the ACT steering committee, and I loved the conversation that we had earlier about the people that you had that helped get you to where you're at currently. I wanted to be a bit meta with this question, given the poster board behind you, for those of you that are listening online that can't see it. We're at a Psychsessions event with a beautiful backdrop here in Portland, and I'm having my Psychsessions moment. And so I was curious, what are your Psych session moments? The time that you heard something on this podcast that said, that makes me think about something in a different way. So, care to share what your Psych session moments are?
We don't assume that all of you are listeners either. But it's very, very nice to hear that question. Let me just say.
I just gave the young man a $20 bill, all right? He gave it back.
I have a great one. So Stephanie Apple's interview.
Yes.
This was something I actually listened to your interview over. This is Jordan. What? It's too late for me. My brain is going in circuits. Okay, so this was a great interview, and I remember something that she said in her interview about starting to think about her job as a place where she can do the work she wants and not a place where she works. It was something like that. And it just reframed my feelings about my institution and my department. And it made me really focus on things as an opportunity instead of whatever the opposite of opportunity is. It's really late. That was my Psych Sessions moment. So thank you, Stephanie.
A challenge.
Changed my life.
All right, this is Sky. There was an episode, I think, within the mentoring related series with Sarai Blinko, and she was talking about frustrations when she was giving advice to students who had reached out for support. She was, responding to students and giving advice and steps and things that she knew were the steps that they needed to take based on the circumstances that they were talking about, the stressors they were dealing with, and then feeling frustrated sometimes when they did not follow up with those steps. And she made a bit of a parallel to in relationships when you need to have the conversation of it's either a listening conversation or a fix-it conversation. And how if students are coming to you and sometimes they're saying things and you just can't help because you know what they could maybe tweak in their approach to studying or something. And often we do, but if we're not doing that listening piece, we maybe should not be surprised when the student has, and not take personal offense when the student has not implemented things. So I've thought about that a lot, and I think it's really improved my ability to listen first and help the student feel validated, which I also think helps them feel a little more invested in the conversation when I then do, when the timing is right to pivot to how can we strategize for moving forward. I think the advice hits a little bit differently once they've really been heard.
Well, this is Loretta, and I don't want this to sound self-serving at all, but I had a conversation, I think, with Garth and Eric. Maybe it was my very first psych session that we did, or I can't remember which one. But listening back on that session and listening to Eric talk about the longevity of our friendship and how we had, really just developed a friendship through our love of teaching and STP and other activities that we were in. And he got a bit choked up about it. And
More than a bit.
well, he says he was weeping, but I don't think it was that.
I was bawling.
Okay, yeah, no, but
I was bawling hard.
Okay, he was bawling hard. Okay, so but listening to that, it just brings me back to thinking about how grateful I am again to the friends that I've simply made through STP over the years. Again, I call them my family. I look back and I see Jane that I've known forever now, Jane Hallinan. And
Just one name is okay.
It's Queen Jane.
I'm so sorry, Queen Jane. She's really my sister, so I can't give her too much credit. But I think about things like that, and it just humbles me that I am in this space with these people at this time. And hopefully I can just give back a small amount of the love and the support that they've given me over the years. I just want to be able to give that back to at least one person. It would be cool if it could be two or more, but I'm just going to be happy if it's just one. So
I have one more. I don't know if this is the closer or not. This is Eric. And this is for all four of you. If you could have one do-over in your career, for all four of you, wherever you are in your career, do you have one that you can share publicly?
I would have worn pants to this podcast.
As opposed to what?
This is Janet.
This is Sky, and I would not have gone out drinking with Regan and Eric. In Kansas City.
That hurts. That hurts. Dry rub, that hurts.
Knew it was coming.
Oh, is this a serious question? I'm sorry.
It started serious, but clearly is not.
Okay.
I think Garth might have some closing thoughts.
You knew what you were getting with me.
Well, when you invited all of us.
I knew what I wanted, and I know what I got.
Yeah. This is a tough question. I mean, I think about do-overs a lot because I make a lot of choices, and sometimes they're not great, but whatever it was that brought me to where I am is fine. So I don't know. I mean, I think if I had one do-over, it probably would be the first few years I spent teaching. I probably was too, wrapped up in my concepts of how things should be with students and what academia was, and was probably a little too strict. And if I could have one I probably would send everybody I taught for the first few years, like whatever the opposite of a thank you note, like regrets, money.
Wasn't I one of your students? No.
Yeah, but everything else. I mean, I'm I don't know that I don't know that I have a lot of regrets. I don't know that I would do anything over.
This is Loretta, not Sky, but Loretta. I think if I had one do-over, I would be more confident in myself and in my abilities, because I think when I first started as an undergraduate student, I was first generation. I just knew nothing, but I also felt like I knew nothing, which, is okay because I didn't know anything. But if I had been a little more confident in myself and in my abilities, I think I could have, I don't know, probably just blossomed a little earlier and been able to give back more to people over a longer period of time. I mean, I know that sounds strange coming from an OG, but, I really do think that I would have just been more confident in myself.
This is Janet, and I do feel like I need to set the record straight that despite
Janet.
Jordan's comments about pants, I'm not wearing pants, but I just need everyone to know I am wearing a skirt. This is not a Porky Pig situation with a Sherpa no bottom.
Okay, I think we've sort of lost.
But
Thank you for the subtitle of this episode, A Porky Pig Situation. Those titles are hard to write. Thank you so much.
But I would say, on the more serious note of the thing, a do-over, it's not one do-over. I think it's a lot of little do-overs of just learning to say no earlier. And I'm still learning that lesson. I learn it very painfully on a regular basis, but less often. And just, I think, just saying no more often and being choosier in the things that I do and that I engage in and how I spend my time and how much I want to prioritize my work in my life. And that was something I maybe didn't have great balance of when I started. And I'm learning that balance by saying no, which is like not my favorite lesson, but that would be, I wish I'd have said more no. No more. I froze, Jordan.
More no more. I froze.
This is Sky. I'm going to say a bit similar to what Jordan mentioned about not necessarily having the regrets, but kind of wishing that early teaching could have benefited from today's teaching skills. Taught my first class in a university context almost a decade ago. And when I think back to that, I would be unrecognizable from what I look like teaching in a classroom now. A course that I taught, one of my first ones, which was a course that was intended to be a conditional admittance course to a university. And so students needed to, take this course. It was something about their scores that were low or some other, factor of their identity that helped qualify them for this program, despite, other things not necessarily qualifying them for admittance. So it was conditional. And so if you can imagine the intersections of me being incredibly, at the time, just, a young, white woman. They might have seen Mendes as the professor and been excited and then realized, that I am quite white. And teaching that course, not having the skills that I do now, I certainly could have done a better job. It wasn't terrible, but I just think, man, all of the things that I know now, I would have taken some time to focus on social belonging as the core of this course instead of what were the outcomes in the assignments that we needed straight away and hammering that. So, I think I wish students could have benefited from the growth that I had in that time.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing your stories. Yeah, please give them a round of applause. You really do. The four of you represent the best of us, and you represent our community well. And this is a place I think that we've all found home. for a lot of the reasons that you have talked about. And so Eric and I are big fans of all of yours. That's why we are excited to have you as a part of this conversation. And I know that one of the things that makes this community special is that we are fans of one another. We cheer each other on. And maybe not all academic communities share that experience, but we're about to embark on a few days together where we get to just cheer each other on and bring more people into the family. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the themes that came up today. So thank you. Let's